Think the rising cost of housing is bad now? Wait till I show you what it was before, during the good old days. You ready? Check this out. Go back in time to the 1960 Census Bureau census study that they got on housing in the United States. Oh, hold on a second. Let me pause it real quick. But here's a median house in 1940, all right, after the Great Depression. It was $3,000 as a median price of a house. So that was in that time's dollars, not today's dollars. $3,000. It had fallen from $4,800 in 1930. You hearing that? That median house went from $4,800 in 1930 to $3,000 in 1940. That, my friends, is a depression. The prices drop dramatically. That's what a depression is. We have a recession, then we have a depression. And people say, oh, that's a good thing. I buy a cheap house if you had a job. Remember, we had 25% unemployment at times during the Great Depression. 25%. You had no control of your wages. You were lucky to have a job. So 1940, the average house was the median house, 50% was more, 50% was less, was $3,000. 1950, 10 years later, it went to $7,400. 74. We take our trusty calculator. That's a roughly 9.5% increase year over year, from 1940 to 1950. 9.5%. Then it went up to 11,900 in 1960. Not the same increase, but still significant increase nonetheless. I mean, just from 1940 to 1950, the house was going up by more than 9% a year. If we take our rule of 72, we take 72 divided by 9. That means your house was doubling every 8 years. 8 years. I mean, there it is. Oh, by the way, the houses were not as well. They weren't built back then. That was great because you know why? Because we started putting all these tons and tons and tons of houses. All these people say the houses were built stronger back then. No, they weren't. A quarter of the housing stock in 1960 was dilapidated. A quarter. And a lot of these houses didn't even have there was no air conditioning, no central air conditioning. Very, very, very few had window units. And then many didn't even have a bathroom, no running water. So don't tell me the houses were so much better back then. It's just not true. Now, let me show you something. So here's the Federal Reserve Board, their information here. You can see the median house right now is about 433. I think is what it says there. 430 right there, 430 or so. You can see a big jump right there. Again, if you actually log this, I'll try to. I'd love to get people to understand what logging is because we're talking about percentages here, not dollars. We're talking about percentages. And you can see it's not nearly the same jump as what it looked like before. All right, but I got to go back here to show you what the price is because when you do the logging, for some reason they take away. You can't just hover over something and see the price. All right, but you're going to see this right here. So it went from what's that? We're going to say right here in 2000. So I bought my house in 2013. So in 2013. The median houses were right there, 258. In 2024, that's 11 years later, the median house is 420. So we're going to take our trusty calculator. We're going to put 258 plus minus zero payment. What do we say? 430, future value, 11N. That means it's grown by an average of about 6.66% a year. Now that's hefty. Don't get me wrong. That's not hefty. Hefty. And we got it right there, 258, 430. Right, 258, 430 is average 6.66% a year. That's still 50% lower than what it did from 1940 to 1950. Now here's the drawback, though. All right, I can't show it to you other on my paper here. The median income from 1940 to 1950 grew from 13. They got averages for 1940. We're going to assume that's median. I hate to use averages, but they didn't have I couldn't find the average, so the median. So 1368 was a median income in 1940 to 3,300 in 1950. All right, 10 and that means the median income grew by 9.21%. 9.21%. You know how much? So, how can I say this? You know how much? Let's just look at median income now, because this is where median. Oops, hold on a second. Median household income. Pause it real quick. Let me explain myself. So the price of houses were growing by 9.5% a year from 1940 to 1950. The median income was growing by 9.2% a year from that same time frame. All right. The price of housing in the last 10 years is growing 6.67% essentially for the last 10 years. What's the median income done? From 2014 is 53,000. Now it's 75,000. So we take 53,000 plus minus, 75,000. The median income has grown by 3.53. So the housing has gone twice the median income. And I just want to show you this chart again. And this is what ticks me. I tell you, man, this is what just friggin' ticks me off. Is that if we're going to look at this from the Survey for Consumer Finances, we're going to go to income. Before tax, net income. Before tax, net income. And again, we're going to look at my age group because these are people basically who are in home buying situations. We'll actually look at these younger guys too. And this is real money and real thousands of 2022 dollars. The median income for these people is the median for the group 35 to 44. Oh, they're my glasses. My glasses right in my pocket. Was in 2022 dollars, $84,000. In 2022 dollars, and that $84,000 in 1989. All right, that's a median income. 84,000 in 1989. 86,000 in 2022. 86,000. So the real income has not grown at all. I mean, this has grown with inflation, but it hasn't grown at all. And look at my age group, 45 to 54. Back then it was 89,000. Now it's 92,000. I mean, when I say it hasn't grown, it's grown a tiny little bit. Real is net of inflation. Basically, our age groups have kept up with the rate of inflation. That's it. And then if we go back to median housing costs, and there's a reason for this, and look at median income. Oh, that's income. Hold on a second. I'm going to look at 1989. The house was the median. That's 1980. 1989 was right there. 124,000. Now it's 420,000. So in 1989, the median home price was 120 plus minus present value. What did I say? 430 now. That's 1989. It's 35 years, right? It's grown by 3.71. 3.71. What has the CPI done over that time? It hasn't been 3.71. It's been lower than that. So the median income isn't rising to the extent of the median home price. Not even close. I mean, it might seem like, we'll see the CPI from those time frames. So let's check it out. $125,000 house in 1989 would be the equivalent of $324,000 if you factor in with inflation. So the price of a houses have gone up a third over the rate of inflation. So the median family income hasn't grown at all for the working people, 35 to 54. But the price of housing has grown by 33% above that of inflation. Because again, this is what a $125,000 house would be in 1989. With inflation is worth $324. But the median house today isn't, and that was the median house right there at 125. The median house is $430. And you can even factor in even better. You say 125 is our present value. 325 is our future value. 125 present value, future value. That's a 2.77% increase. So the fact that houses have grown almost 4% increase, and yet inflation is only 2.77, and the median income has only gone up with inflation, not anything more. That's what's hurting for the housing right there. And it's because of immigration and globalization. That doesn't mean you hate immigrants, nothing like that. But it's just you want cheap goods, cheap phones, cheap calculators, all this stuff. You're going to have to pay with cheap labor. Cheap labor competes with your labor to lower your labor, your cost to hire you. It's just a fact, dude. And some of these immigrants, a lot of them come here and crush because they'll take a cheaper wage. Immigration runs down wages. This is not debatable. It doesn't mean you're hating, just as a fact. The reason immigration is so prosperous amongst the corporate elite is because they know it reduces labor costs. Labor costs are the number one expense in the United States, in any business. For any business, labor cost. And that's why we're being priced out of houses. That's all there is to it. Look, man, what are you going to do? I don't know. I'm just telling you what it is. Anyway, love your thoughts. God bless. We'll see you